Welcome to Waiting on the Trade, a monthly comics book club for people who can't keep up with monthly comics. I'm Matt Ledger.
I'm Patrick Fitzgerald Fleck.
And I'm Bryce Manning.
This month, we're talking about Wotakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku, Volume 1, which is the premiere work by mangaka Fujita. And I'm sure I mispronounced something in there. So in case y'all need a refresher, Wotakoi is a romance manga for grown-up geeks, starring 4 late 20-something characters who are united by their nerdy passions. So before we get too far into this, Bryce, do you want to introduce yourself to the podcast listening audience, and then maybe tell us a little bit about why you want to talk about this book?
Sure. So, yeah, my name's Bryce Manning. Pretty much been collecting only X-Men comics since I was a kid. I have a deep love for anime, and then that translated into manga and also learning Japanese. And yeah, came across this particular manga via various anime YouTubers actually recommending the show.
I was gonna say, so you found the anime first, right?
Yeah, found the anime first, loved the anime, went back, read the volumes.
Pat, did you find the anime first also?
Yeah, Bryce introduced me to the anime.
And so I watched an episode of the anime with you, so we all came to it that way, I guess.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I was kind of like, I liked the anime a little bit more, I feel like. At least the episode I watched of it, I feel like there was a bit more context. Does that sound correct?
The thing about this is that it was originally posted as a web series on, was it Pixiv or whatever it's called?
Pixiv, yeah.
And so it's not so much an overarching story as it is little like vignettes, like little short stories or cute like moments in these couples' relationships. And the anime, being an anime, tries to flesh out like the interstitial scenes, so you get to see her wake up in the morning before she goes to work for the first time in the anime.
Yeah, which was nice, actually. Like a little bit of context before it's just like, here we are in this office.
I'm meeting this man for the first time. Yeah, so like they get to the meat of it in the web series, where in the anime they sort of get the fluffy stuff out of the way.
Right.
Yeah.
And like all these interactions and these little anecdotes are actually based off of the author's personal friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she pretty much just like whenever something like a funny story would happen between them, she would just draw it out using these characters. And so that's why there's so many like of these little short stories and not like a cohesive like overarching story.
I actually really liked that like comic essay in the back that was like, hey, this is my first comic and these are the people it's based on, basically, or whatever, because it was quite fun. And I liked the bit where apparently Kabakura's like based on her dad and she's like, I don't know if I'll ever tell them about this book.
No, it's great that it's a book about otaku, obviously written by an otaku who like has a deep love and understanding of so many like nerdy culture in Japan. Like I've watched some anime, and luckily I just watched Neon Genesis Evangelion, because
I did not get that reference or those references, I guess.
I get some of these
many
things.
whoosh moments in this manga. And even the footnotes where it was like, I'm explaining this reference, I was like, I'm more lost now that you've explained it than if you had it. Which was not a deal breaker at all. Most of them were like, you could just kind of cruise past it. But there were definitely a few moments where I was like, I think I need to get this joke to really get this book, and I don't get this joke.
Yeah,
there's some like pulp culture, like TV show stuff. It's like, I'm not gonna get that.
Nope.
That's okay.
My knowledge of Japanese variety shows is lacking.
Well, even I didn't know that one. I had to look that one up.
Found that glossary so late. It's already done with the book, and it was like, hey, there's a glossary in the back, and I was like, this is why I should buy print.
But Evangelion's like loved by like everybody over in Japan, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, that one's on me. Yeah. That's a big deal. And they just re-released it, right? You were saying, Pat?
It's on Netflix now, which is why I watched it. Yeah. If you like big monsters and big robots, give it a try.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out like what my pitch for this comic would be to someone who hasn't read it, and I feel like my pitch for the comic is this podcast if it was slightly nerdier and we fell in love with each other.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I relate with these characters because they're super nerds.
Yeah.
And it's also not high schoolers or middle schoolers, which I appreciate so much.
Yeah, which Bryce had put in his notes too, and we had like briefly discussed via chat. Like, it's nice to see late 20-somethings being a late 20-something.
Like my love story is really cute, but it's still a bunch of high schoolers, right? They're like freshman or sophomore.
Yeah, they like just get to high school when that book starts. Yeah.
So like it's at some level, I feel sort of iffy about reading about the romance of high schoolers. But 20-year-olds, I feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
About, I don't know.
I mean, even in here, like, and I think we'll get into this because Bryce, you mentioned that you like this genre, but like the genre of basically like gay manga being called boy love manga, kind of like there's that bonus comic about like what squicks you out, like just the term boy love squicks me out a little bit. What about man love?
Some man
Right.
Love.
There's a genre for that. It's bara.
Wait, let me get my notebook back out so I can write that one in my list of terms. Can you spell that, please?
BARA.
Yeah, as it sounds.
It's very muscular, manly men.
So that kind of leads into one of my favorite lines from the manga. I texted Pat this morning. I was like, I have two favorite moments from the manga. This is neither of them, but this like this line of dialogue was hilarious to me, and I feel like in various spots, like this didn't quite translate out correctly, and this might be one of them. No matter how far digitalization progresses, the print-based entertainment culture remains strong. Welcome to my TED Talk.
No, I love that. It's Otaku being super focused on like she knows there's digital comics, but obviously true Otaku will have the printed version.
Gonna have that paper stuff.
You gotta have like the hardcore. Yeah, it's better in print.
That is also like directly followed by that scene where Momose looks at all of
Nifuji.
Yes, Nifuji's statues, and it's like, huh.
It's the male gazy thing. Of course, video game otaku is going to have a bunch of large breast.
I mean, he is a breast guy. Also, like, he's pretty upfront about that throughout the whole book.
Well, both the guys are like, yeah, we like big boobs. What? I don't.
We're just guys. I do like that he did end up having a porn stash and then hiding it in Kabakura.
That was hilarious at the very like, what? Where did this magazine? Least large-breasted women.
I think by the time it gets into basically like the game night / porn hunt stuff, like that's actually when I thought it was like I really enjoyed those like that evening with them just kind of like hanging out playing Mario Kart and stuff.
Mhm.
Like that was fun.
Yeah.
That was super fun. And just like chilling and being friends. There's actually like it's not like a genre of comics, I guess, but this guy whose podcast I listen to and whose articles I read sometimes, David Harper, has been talking about how like recently comics are in like a golden age of hangout comics, which is just people who you would enjoy spending time with hanging out with each other, and like it kind of feels like that. Like this is a hangout comic for sure.
Well, in like any other comic, this would be like fan service sections where like Spider-Man and Mary Jane sit down in a diner and like shoot the shit for a little bit.
Yeah. But it's the whole book.
Which is awesome because that's the parts that I really appreciate.
Yeah, it fleshes out the characters.
Shawarma at the end. Yeah.
So who do you guys identify the most with? Because I have a clear answer for my like on my side.
Well, for me, I'm a split between Momose and Nifuji.
Okay, Pat.
I'm gonna have to say probably Nifuji.
Okay, we're all Nifujis in some way, shape, or form.
But I mean, I enjoy all the characters in this. I don't really have any issue with anyone.
I mean, I know people who cosplay like Koyanagi in the book, and I know people who are into nerdy things, but they don't really talk about it, or they're not really like open about it, like Kabakura. And and I'm basically Momose in the sense that I like boys love, but I'm also Nifuji because I smoke and wear glasses and play lots of video games. So,
perfect.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
I was wondering if like Kabakura is actually like hiding anything, or if he just doesn't talk about it that much because it's not as much of like a passion in his life as it is for the others. I don't know. That was something I was trying to figure out as I was reading the book, actually, because there's no point where he's like he encounters someone and he's trying to hide his interests, really, and it doesn't feel like he's like super gun shy about talking about it. But we also only see him interacting with people who are even nerdier than him in here, so maybe it would be different if he runs into someone else. I don't know.
Well, in this first volume, I don't even think we even get told what his otaku is, like what the thing is that he really is into.
We get him in like one of those character sections where it's like, hey, this is this character, and basically talks about he likes popular stuff, and he talks about Robotech. He does talk about Robotech,
Alright.
which is a reference I got, sort of. I know what Robotech is.
He's also really into Mahou Shoujo manga, some magical girl manga, like Sailor Moon.
So he would also be crying at Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
Should we go through the plot of the thing, or like go like scene by scene, or should we just like talk about scenes that we found?
I mean, so let's like
enjoyable?
briefly, I wrote it down so I could like kind of separate them out, because eventually the first time through, like, because it's all sort of random scenes, it sort of blended together for me. So I took the time to write out like, okay, this is what happens. Like episode 0 and 1 are like the meet cute scenes, essentially, like sort of setting up the premise of the thing where they're like not going to be in a relationship, but then they are. And then episode 2 is that weird avoidance one where they have the really fun battle, but like I didn't really get what
Poke battle one.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was a Poke battle, if it was like more of a Final Fantasy. Oh, I guess it'd be closer to Poke battle, yeah, because they're using techniques.
I looked up a thing in the glossary that said it was a Poke battle.
Oh, okay. It was so weird to me that Momose was like just dodging him immediately, like the next day. It felt like. Although maybe that's one of those things where we just didn't have the context of it. I don't know.
Maybe she was embarrassed that they're dating, but they're at work together.
And also, he's very open about being an otaku. He just doesn't care. And she's like, up until this point, she's kept it secret because it's ruined past relationships. She's moved from a job. She lost her boyfriend because she was an otaku. So
just super weird, right? Like, is that a Japan thing, or is that like a thing that can happen here, you guys?
Sure.
I mean, I think it could happen here, but yeah, I think in Japan, like an otaku. I mean, you can be an otaku if anything. You can be a train otaku, densho otaku.
Yeah, it's just if you're really into a thing, right?
Yeah, but like if it carries over into your work life, like you have model trains all over your cubicle, then yeah, people are going to think you're weird, and you might get a little like left out of like group activities and things like that.
I mean, you're just the trains guy. Everyone likes a trains guy.
But the problem with Mimose is it's not trains, it's young gay men. Yeah. So
which is something, yeah.
Which is fine by me, but
yeah, that whole like fight scene. I think did it start when she was saying that Kubakara is attractive?
She let it slip out, yeah.
Hanako was saying, "Oh, I'm so jealous. Nifuji is so handsome," and then Momo says, "Well, Kubakara is actually more of my type."
Which is super weird also, though, because like Hanako is dating Kabakura too. She's like, oh man, you're so lucky.
It's gossip.
No, for sure.
But I think that's what started off, because Nifuji heard Babose say Kabakura is a good looking guy. And I think she's overreacting. She's like,
oh, absolutely.
What he would do.
Like a good chunk of the first section of the manga is basically hinges on the fact that she's overreacting about what people may or may not think about her.
Right.
Which was, I don't know, as a person who like used to do that and has kind of come around to doing that less, was weird to see. Like I used to have to like dodge those sorts of things, and I would downplay like the stuff I liked, especially in like grade and middle school, less so by like high school-ish, which is like, I don't know, at this point I got a giant poster of Batman drawn by Jock that's on my hanging above my computer here, and people are coming over to our house today, so you know, not really anything to hide.
You gotta put a sheet over it.
Yeah, what's that? Oh, that's just where my ghost lives. Don't worry about it.
Football poster, just put it up over it. It's great. No worries.
You just tape up my Green Bay Packers poster.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
I don't know, but like I do still do the dodge thing. I know this has happened, Pat. Like when you and me and Kat, my wife, take a drink if you play the drinking game.
There it is.
Like we'll have conversations where you and I are talking about like magic or comics and stuff, and I look to my right and I see that Kat's kind of like tuning out, and I don't change the conversation because I'm like embarrassed about what we're talking about. It's just I like people to not be bored, you know.
You gotta include people.
Yeah, So like I definitely still do stuff like that. And like we had a guy come into our office the other day actually who was like he brought us a brochure for a RPG convention that he runs and he was like we want to redesign that and I was talking with people about it and like I don't know, there was definitely like a oh that's a nerdy thing. I was like yeah, that's a nerdy thing. That's great. So I don't know. There are various levels of it, but I haven't had it like as deeply ingrained as Mimose has it for like a good chunk of time at this point. So I don't know. It's weird to see. Like you got just be who you are, man. It'll be fine.
I certainly think Western culture has been much more accepting of nerd interests.
Well,
in
that's
the
the
past,
thing
like,
too. Is like
decade.
we won, right?
Oh yeah, it's gotten to the point where all the nerds have grown up and they now run the businesses
Right.
and everything. So yeah.
The biggest movie of all time is an Avengers movie where Thanos is the bad guy, right?
Yeah, Thanos. Remember that guy? 15 years ago, you wouldn't.
Nope. If we're talking about nerd things that I almost cried at, I almost cried when Steve Rogers said Avengers Assemble on screen.
Really? Because he just said Avengers Assemble.
Yeah, dude.
Come on, Steve. Say it with some passion.
I mean, like the entire Marvel universe appeared behind him, and he said Avengers Assemble. Man, what do you want from me? I'm weak.
Better delivery. Better delivery. That's
I
what
loved
want.
it. I was close. It was close to tears.
All right.
That's what I thought of when they were talking about Sailor Moon in that bonus comic.
The Sailor Moon R is for young adults.
Is that
what I
yes?
hear.
That's what you said. And then he starts weeping with her after he watches it.
Is Sailor Moon R the new one? Like the new re-released one recently?
It's a movie from 1993.
Oh, okay. So no then.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did do a remake recently. though, right?
Probably.
Semi-recently.
Yeah. And
Crystal, right?
yeah, I didn't like it as much. The voice actor that they used for the at least the Japanese voice is a little too I don't know, I just didn't like the voice. But it is more faithful to the actual Sailor Moon manga, so
I've never read it. Next time you're on, Bryce.
yeah.
First volume,
Sailor Moon.
I
I can do
paged
that.
through the first volume of Sailor Moon the other week.
There you go. Got a head start.
I put it back on the shelf, but I did page through it.
You mind if I go through some of the things that I like laughed out loud
Yeah.
at?
Yeah, go for it.
So the first one was I think it was the bar scene right after they met at work. And she's bemoaning the fact it's so hard to date as an otaku. And I think Nefuji says something like, well, in your otome games, you always pick the best choices, right? And she gets all serious like, damn straight.
So there's a woman who's coming to our party tonight who's like a hardcore gamer. Like the last time we went out for sushi, she was playing games on her phone the entire time we were at this sushi place. And it so reminded me of her. Like that was exactly a thing that she would do. Like if you were like, hey, you're really good at that game though, right? She'd be like, yeah, damn straight I'm good at that game.
You make all the right choices, don't you? Fuck yeah, I do. So good. And just the fact that, yeah, Nefuji always like makes references to dating games because that's how he thinks like a
That
relationship
dating
should go.
goes, that was actually kind of weird to me. I was like, we gotta live in the real world a little bit here, bud.
Nah. I mean, he's a video game otaku. Of course he's going to relate it to video games.
I think the sentence that quote unquote, oh, it didn't actually squick me out, but I was like, come on, man. Like when he was like, all my lovers are in video games, I was like, I don't know if that translated correctly.
Yeah, it depends on what you mean by lover, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I do have a little bit of a correction. So Sailor Moon R isn't just the movie; it is also a season of Sailor Moon.
Duly noted.
You know,
Boop, 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 boop,
And
boop. Breaking update.
Sailor Moon listeners might be upset at me.
That's true. We don't want to anger the Sailor Moon fandom. They'd probably kick our ass. Actually, though.
Well, anyways, going back to the manga, so like one of my favorite scenes is whenever Momose and Koyanagi would have like a debate.
Yes.
You know, which like boys like when they turn their boyfriends into a boys love pairing.
Yes, the Kabaidon scene where they're forcing them to Kabaidon and they're taking photos of each
That yeah, and well, they were debating like who would be on top or who would be on bottom, basically. I think that one's in the anime. Yeah,
I was gonna say I don't remember that happening in the comic.
In the comic, they definitely dress up Nefuji as a woman. They cross-dress him. And Kabakura comments about how hot that woman
That
is.
happens in one of the bonus comics in this too. There's a picture of him as a woman, and Kabakura's like, "Hey."
Ooh, can you give me her number?
The bonus comics were fun, especially the ones between like between parts of episode 4 I really liked. I think that's where those ones were. Oh no, maybe they weren't actually. Those might have been earlier, because the ones between episode 4 part 1 and episode 4 part 2 take place during that hangout night.
Yeah, there's one where like it's like a general question and they give each character's response to the question kind of thing. Or like a cute scene where Nefuji doesn't know how to blink.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And then later on, he's still trying. He's still practicing.
Yes.
The flip from the like female fan service one, which actually was kind of fan service, to the male fan service one, which was just bizarre, was also pretty good. It's like, okay, I guess she's grabbing that other girl's boobs. I think the word boobs is used more in this comic than most any other comic I've read.
So that's how you know it's quality stuff.
And you guys probably may or may not have a different opinion on this, but the amount of times people actually spoke in lol made me feel really old. Like at the end of their balloons, instead of actually laughing, they just say like lol.
Oh, I see.
And I was like, I'm out of touch.
I think that's to do with Japanese culture too.
So. Oh yeah, absolutely it does. Which I think is part of why I did really overall enjoy this. I feel like there are just bits of it I didn't quite connect with, and I think that's just on the fact that I am not Japanese and don't live in Japan.
You're not a 20-something in Japan?
Yeah. Turns out different life experiences mean you might not connect with parts of the story, but I don't know. There's definitely a lot that I did connect with. So I started reading the second volume and then I put it down because Kabakura had like weirdly territorial feelings about Momose's relationship with Nefuji, and I was like, I'm not into this. I'm gonna give it a minute, Japan, but I'll probably end up reading the second volume at some point.
It's pretty cute. You get introduced to more characters. Nefuji's younger brother is also wonderfully just awkward. It's great.
The non-otaku in the group.
That's right. He's a barista, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I met him because he's the guy that Kabakura's like trying to fend off for no reason at all.
Well, his nerdy friend finally has a girlfriend, so.
But nothing was. They were just whatever. It's not a discussion for this one. It's a discussion for if we read volume 2 for the podcast.
All right, listeners, read volume 2, and you make your decision.
Instead, we should talk about the comic convention and how cool that was.
Yeah,
Comic Cat or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Comic Cat.
Yeah. I think it's great that Momose has a BL comic that she writes.
Yeah, it's super cool.
It's like, what? It's great.
And Nefuji was like very supportive and like helping her get it done, and like he had to deal with that old creepy man.
He was sexually. Oh, that was great.
Yeah, give me the details.
Yes, give me the details. She's not concerned about whether he was sexually assaulted. She was.
Which is in character.
It's great. And the fact, that Hanako is cross-dressed as an attractive man. It's great.
Which at that point you don't actually know like what her things are. They kind of just like assume you even know she's an otaku. Like in episode, so in episode 1, like they kind of just set you up to be like, oh yeah, she's an otaku too. And it's like, oh okay. So like you see her walk past, and I definitely did like I don't know who that character is and why I'm supposed to care, but okay.
Throw over the eye patch,
which made the reveal pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I think Nefuji does like a double take, and then Momose's freaking. He's like, "Oh, you're so cute." It's really great.
Is your girlfriend that attractive man?
Yep. I don't know. It does like these stories I appreciate because it's happy feeling stuff. Like there's no drama. There's a little bit, but it's never like.
I was gonna say there's some relationship drama in the last part with Kabakura and Hanako. Hanako. So I mean there's some drama.
Dramas.
I don't exactly get what they see in each other other than the fact that they're both like very driven, passionate, slightly angry sometimes people. Which maybe is enough, who knows.
Well, they've been a couple for like a really, really long time. So they're like an old couple that like fights all the time.
But that's not okay, Bryce. I was told in the comics. What did you guys think about the art as it went through? Because like at the start, I read it once, read it a second time, and I was taking notes. And at the start, I was like, I can kind of tell this is someone's first manga in the first chapter. But I think by chapters 4 and 5, it actually really like it's really tight and it's well done. Like there's especially, and I think you had this in your notes, Pat, there's that one joke where Hirotaka's talking to Momose and they're talking about whether they settled or not, and like
Oh my god, yes.
and the panel is it's two
Where
two
are you looking
panels
right
and
now?
her face is in the top one, and you kind of like follow his eyes down to the second panel, and it's just her chest.
It's so good. It's like, yeah, I guess I settled.
And like
And she's like holding up by his collar. Where were you looking when you just said that? Nowhere.
And like that's a really good visual joke that like requires a little bit of expertise, right? Like you have to know that you can separate those panels in that way to get that joke across. Like that was cool. So I think by the end of it, especially like the actual pacing of it and like the drawing of it works in its favor really well.
Mm-hmm.
I think by that point, that's when the mangaka or author Fujita actually had a publisher by then, because the first few volumes were just on PixIV, just
web comic,
So she has an editor now that's like looking over her art,
and possibly assistants, but I don't know if that's a thing or not. Like I know a lot of people get assistants.
Sure,
definitely now she does. But yeah, so she was picked up by Ichijin's the publication company. Like yeah, and yeah, now she probably has other artists working for her and stuff.
I'm sure this is super popular, right?
Yeah,
Bryce, you wrote up a whole thing about like how it's sold a lot and won a lot of awards, basically.
Yeah, Volume 2 was ranked first and sold over 200,000 copies in its first week.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I know like the Kodansha Manga Award's a big deal too, and it was nominated for that apparently also too, in like the best general manga category, not like the romance category or whatever.
Right.
Which is super cool.
Big deal for someone who's just started out just like randomly drawing things and putting them online.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And like I don't know, like Pat said, it's kind of cool to see something that's just sort of like cheerful getting recognized and doing well too.
It's really refreshing.
Yeah.
Like life's a bummer sometimes, you guys.
I wouldn't know about that, Pat.
Oh, and it's just nice to just read cute things that make you happy.
Yeah.
And not about high schoolers that makes you a little creeped out that you're reading. No, they're 20. It's fine. They're going to bars. They're drinking.
And they're still like completely awkward and haven't figured anything out, which is how I feel. So it's nice to read about adults that haven't figured anything out. I have two favorite bits, like I said. And the first one is definitely the cut from Hirotaka inviting Momose to his house. And then there's just that caption box that says, Momose doesn't know what color panties she's wearing. It's just like, that's just random thought.
The narrator, yeah.
Like you can hear the movie voiceover, right? Yeah, like it's Morgan Freeman.
That whole misunderstanding where she's like, oh God, oh, he's going to make moves. Oh, I'm not wearing the right underwear. Oh God. He's reaching over for the Wii remote.
It's like, I don't have a pink one, sorry.
At that moment, Mimosa remembered that Nefuji is actually a man. It's like,
and that her panties were beige. That was real good. But my absolute favorite moment, which is the page where I actually found myself laughing out loud on like all three read-throughs, was page 107, where they're out at the bar, and it's like basically the chance Momose gives Kapakura to like make up to Hanako. She's like, okay, say something nice. And like it catches him for a beat, and then it zooms in on him. He's like, I like your huge breasts. And then it's just a smash cut to her like punching him in the face and like tackling him. So good. So yeah, like the funny bits are the bits I like the most.
Which is like the majority of the series.
Yeah, and the end, like the end was very cool too. I found the like are we settling discussion very interesting, actually.
Yeah, are we dating each other just because we're otaku and this is easier for us? Yeah. I could see that happening in real life. It's like, well, we have similar interests, but is that enough?
Yeah, and like, but so Bryce, kind of, you spelled this out in your notes kind of too. Like they have similar interests in that they're both like geeky and otaku, but like they actually have very different interests within that very broad genre of things, right? So like, even then, like, because I was talking about this with Kat this morning, basically. I was like,
Who's
we
Kat
have very
again?
different interests. My wife.
Okay.
I was like, Kat, you wouldn't describe yourself as an otaku, right? And no, of course not. Basically, was the answer. So I was like, I would probably describe myself as an otaku. We're doing a podcast about comic books, so like I think we're in the wheelhouse here, right? So like what then is the glue, right? And it's basically just being able to grow with the person and be passionate about their interests, which they do really well here. That dude's working on her comic book about boy love at midnight.
And then in the bar, she's asking help for what is it, Monster Hunter? Like getting the rare material Monster Hunter in the first bar scene.
Yeah, they're trying to find 2 rubies or whatever.
Yeah, I just won't drop. I've been there.
Those things never drop. But after the whole like settling conversation, there's a line that I really like, and it's Nifuji talking to Momose, and he's like, "We're together because I love you, and I like seeing you doing the things that make you happy."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how those things work.
Yeah, they're just being supportive of each other despite having different interests, you know.
And then you guys, that cute smile that he does, he never smiles, but then he smiles. I don't know. I really like this series. The anime is like probably one of my top animes, so it's great. And the intro song is perfect for it too. It's perfect. It's like cute, upbeat. Watch the anime, everyone. Do it.
Can you sing part of it for me?
No, because I don't know Japanese that well enough.
The artist is Sumika, if anyone's wondering.
But yeah, Matt, compare this to My Love Story, which is the one that you would... I don't like what ranking, but I guess which would you say?
I was actually thinking about that a week ago. I was like, if we were in the business of ranking stuff, I think that's where we'd start with this one, right? Like
it's similar enough that you can.
Love Story.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess of the two, if someone were to approach you of our age and say, I have an interest in romantic comedies, is there anything for me? Of the two, what would you recommend?
I think I would give them My Love Story, if only because there are like weird edges of this where if you don't get it, you can get lost. Yeah. Like, and I think especially if you're somehow coming to this and you're not even into nerd culture or otaku stuff like at all, I think it's a little harder to connect with, whereas My Love Story is a bit more universal. But I do also really value the thing we've been talking about where like they are our age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something that I would take into consideration depending on who the person that I'm talking to is. Which one would you say?
It's the same issue that you were saying, that this one is niche. But yeah, if they have one nerdy interest, I would probably give them this.
I mean, most of our friends, I would say, hey, read this one.
Right? And there's less of this too, because My Love Story goes on for what, 13?
13.
13?
No, it's 13. Yeah, which I've made it through 10.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I've still got them all somehow on my iPad, even though they technically should have been returned to the library.
I mean, there's what, 4 volumes of this out now, right? Maybe more.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, like each of these is actually 2 volumes, right?
Yes, I guess that's true. So if you're looking for something light, I guess I would go for this. But yeah, there's probably more of a story in My Love Story.
If you're not quite in our wheelhouse of people who were playing League of Legends literally up until recording time.
Wow. Out it's just like that.
Shots fired. Well, we don't care, Pat.
I sort of care. It's League of Legends. Come on.
It is kind of the thing though, right? And like I didn't want to let us get out of here without kind of talking about the stuff you had written in your notes, Bryce, about like how you connect to this specifically as a gay man, like how like your sexuality is also one of those things that you kind of have to judge whether you're going to talk to someone about or not.
Right. And that's where I connect with Momose, you know, and the fact that she's hiding being an otaku coming into a new work environment. You have, as a gay man, you kind of have to make that decision, like whenever you go somewhere new.
You have to come out multiple times.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, you don't need to be like full on display, like, hey, I'm here and I'm queer, you know. But like, if you're going to be working with someone closely for the next few months, you know, a conversation about like, oh, are you dating somebody, or, you know, do you have kids? That's going to happen. And then you need to make that decision, like, well, actually my partner, or, you know, oh, I'm not seeing anybody, even though you are seeing like someone of the same sex. You know, that's just going to happen. And I feel like with Momose, that's a decision that she makes, because does she let her coworkers that she's going to see for probably 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, does she let them know more about herself and her interests, so that way they can have a better working relationship and a better like friendship? That's how it relates to issues coming out of the closet.
So feel free to not answer this if it's too personal or you don't want to. But is that a thing that has gotten easier over time for you? Is that a thing where you can kind of judge the situation or the people you're around or what's going on around you and figure out like to what degree you're gonna
Be open with them.
basically open up? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me personally, I've transitioned from being Momose into being Fuji, in the sense that I just don't care anymore. If someone, I'm not like walking into a new place and being like, I'm gay, and that's
Well, I mean, who does that, right? Like, that's just like not how people. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you could do it in like little ways, like wearing like a rainbow bracelet, or like a pride T-shirt and stuff like that. And that's fine if that's how you want to do it. For me, I don't personally do that. But if someone were to come up to me and be like, "Oh, do you have a girlfriend?" or what's going on with that, I would just be like, "Oh, no, but I do have a boyfriend." If someone confronts me about it and wants to talk to me and get to know me more, I have absolutely no problem with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I don't know, like that's kind of what I figured you would say, and kind of what I hoped
Yeah,
you would say, honestly.
Yeah. Whereas like being LGBT in Japan is a little bit different.
Well, that's the thing too. That's like where what kind of weirds me out also about like the boy love label is like, why can't you just call it gay manga, right? Like why? Like maybe it's just not the word there.
Well,
maybe I don't know what's going
It's also
on. But
marketed
like,
towards women more so than gay men. So
yes, which is also
interesting.
I don't know. It's weird. I was gonna say, but yeah, like either of those words applies. I think, and yours is probably more politically correct.
But yeah, no, but like being gay in Japan, that's like a personal thing, and so you don't really talk about that stuff in general unless you have like your close friends or your family. And even heterosexual couples don't really talk about their significant other at work and stuff, because that's considered just personal. You're there to work and you can talk about other things, but your personal stuff you just keep to yourself.
Well, we even kind of see that like in here, right, where Hanako is upset that she gets called Hanako at work by Kabakura.
Yeah.
But you were finishing your thought, and I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, you're fine. So yeah, like that stuff just kind of stays at home, and it's just generally accepted. So I guess it goes for both heterosexual people and homosexual people. One thing that is weird is that boys love is pretty popular in Japan, and at the same time people still view it as being kind of like weird, but it's like also everywhere. I went to like one bookstore, and my boyfriend who was with me he was surprised by how much boys love was there. And to me, I was like, this is a small collection, but I went through it anyways.
This is not that much.
But he was like, wow, I didn't know like Nagasaki is kind of a smaller town. I didn't know Nagasaki had so much like boys love in this like bookstore. Meanwhile, I go to Fukuoka, which is like the size of like San Diego, so a bigger city. And there's a manga shop called Mandarake, or Mandrake, depends how you want to say it. And I was told that there was a giant boys love section there, and so I went into the store and looked all over the place, and there is absolutely no boys love. However, they have a whole second floor of this like skyscraper building, and you have to like kind of like go up the stairs and like around the corner and stuff, and then you find their second floor store, and it's nothing but boys love. Like,
heck yes.
Yeah, and
love it.
Yeah, and there were definitely some very dedicated otaku there that would put me to shame.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did you buy anything?
I did buy some doujinshi, which are like amateur-made comics.
Yeah, which would just be like zines here, basically,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
I was trying to. I've got my list of terms here.
Yeah. But yeah, since they're amateur made, they're a little on the 18+ side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bryce, is your current boyfriend an otaku?
Maybe not to the level that I am.
Okay,
But he does like
he is
video
Japanese,
games.
right? Like,
is
yeah, I know you
Japanese.
recently visited him in Japan, but I don't know if I
Mhm.
ever confirmed with you that he is Japanese. Okay, but not an otaku to the level that say people playing League of Legends up until
Stop
this
it.
recording
What the heck,
started.
I
feel
mean,
attacked.
I just put in 70 hours into a video game over the course of 10 days, so
Fire Emblem Three Houses, man. It's real good.
it's so good. I'm already halfway through my second playthrough.
Which game?
Fire Emblem, Three
Oh,
Houses. Yeah. Yeah. No, he likes video games, but he's not on the level that I am, which is fine.
Okay, what's
And
his
he-
passion? Like, what's the passion that I don't know that you have to be like? You have to be the Nifuji to his Mimosa for.
I don't know. Maybe working out. He works out a lot. I don't.
It's a
So
nice mix. There you go. You can support each other.
yeah. He likes karaoke. I am not good at karaoke.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He is he's going to listen to this podcast. He likes the Avengers movies. He's interested in American comics because American comics are hard to get over there.
Oh, cool.
But he
Yes.
does
Yeah, I
know
heard that.
he does know about like Marvel through the movies.
Okay.
And he's a huge fan of the Avengers and Spider-Man.
You'll have to get his take on the Avengers Assemble. What do you think?
Whether he cried or not.
I think he did.
There you go,
I
Matt.
think he did.
Pat, the next time we watch it, we're gonna be like 2 or 3 beers deep, and I might actually cry though.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm trying to think if there was an emotional moment for me in that movie. I don't know.
Well, the weird thing about Endgame is that as much as it's like this is our Endgame discussion podcast, which is a sub podcast.
We're otakus. It's allowed.
Episode
It's
way on the
fine.
track.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fine.
literally in Bryce's notes, he's got like how the Evangelion, like, I mean, I mispronounced this too.
Evangelion. Yeah.
Wafu?
Waifu?
Oh, yeah, I mispronounced that too.
Evangelion
God.
waifu. It's fine. Yeah.
I just feel like sometimes this podcast is just me encountering the world and just like
It's all right.
running into it and banging my head into it every single time.
But it just shows you how like the scope of comic books in general.
No, absolutely. Which is like part of the reason that I don't know. Part of the reason we're doing the podcast basically is for me to read things that I haven't read before, and I think Pat feels the same
Absolutely.
way. So
Yeah. But you were saying about the waifus.
yeah, so they were having the waifu discussion, and Bryce had put in his notes like how it's similar to like who would win in a fight, Captain America or Spider-Man. And I just like instantly was like, well, Spider-Man, obviously.
Obviously, he's got the super strength, the Spidey senses. Come on.
Yeah, it is definitely Spider-Man.
See? Maybe that's not a good comparison.
Unanimous.
I even think Spider-Man can beat Batman.
Well, I mean, you're wrong, but that's
I
okay.
mean, Matt's going to say, well, Batman will have prepared for that fight ahead of time. So he's
Well,
gonna know
yeah,
how-
it depends on the battle
prep
conditions.
time. Batman literally has Mecha hiding within Gotham City, so like,
What? Really?
look it up, man.
Oh my god. But anyways, Wotakoi.
I was gonna say we rabbit holed a bit there, but I feel like the whole comic book is kind of a rabbit hole.
It's
Right.
just about nerds being nerds and supporting each other being nerds. It's great.
Read it if you want like a light, quick read.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
the first time I went through it super quick to the point where I was like, because when you look at it, there's 256 pages, but that's 2 volumes, and I was like, oh, I'm done with it already.
Yeah.
Bryce, do you have any recommendations if people like this? What else they should get into?
If you want to continue down the josei, which is like genre for older women or adult women, I would suggest the Nana manga.
Is this more like
Yeah.
romantic comedy kind of stuff, or is it?
It's 2 girls moving to one girl moving to the city, Tokyo, and and her name's Nana, and she rents an apartment with another girl who's also named Nana, and
What? Wait, no, I'm out. What? I'm out, Bryce. This was already confusing enough to figure out who was
basically
who.
they're navigating their lives in the city. The other Nana is the singer of a punk rock band, and she's dealing with like rising fame. The other one's dealing with being in the city, boyfriend issues, stuff like that.
Cool.
All right, I'm more into the punk rock scene bit of it. I've decided already.
If you want to go down the boys love route, I think one that wouldn't be too jarring for beginners would be Sekaiichi Hatsukoi, or The World's Greatest First Love.
That's a baller title, by the way.
If you've seen the movie Love Actually, it's just like that, but with gay couples. So like different stories, and they're all kind of sort of connected.
That's cool. I actually really like that movie.
And if you want a boys love anime, I definitely recommend Yuri on Ice because it's a blend of sports and boys love. So if you're not really into the whole boys love aspect, but you like sports anime, it would be good. That's a good place to start.
Cool.
Yeah.
Pat, did you have anything that you were gonna recommend based on this?
Not really. Like, obviously, if you like this, you should check out My Love Story because that's the closest thing that we've talked about. But
And then listen to our episode on it.
yes, it's a great episode. I mean, Bryce introduced me to this, so I'm still pretty new to the romantic comedy manga scene. So I don't really have too much to recommend at this time. What about you, Matt?
I was trying to think more in like that space of hangout comics that I was talking about earlier, and one that
Sure.
I think is like just wrapping up soon, and it's squarely between people who are high school aged and actual real job age, because it's set during the college years of these 4 girls who are all in a dorm room together, and it's called Giant Days. And it's really good. I've read the first couple volumes, and everyone I talk to about it just loves it to death, basically. And it's funny. Like, it's funny in kind of the same ways this is funny, and it's also about relationships and stuff too at times. So I would think if you like this, you would like that. Though again, it's not quite as nerdy. Though people in there definitely have their interests. There's actually a whole section of volume 2 where one of the girls gets real deep into Friday Night Lights.
Really?
To the point where she's like walking around pretending to be Coach Taylor.
Wow.
That's an otaku right there.
Yep, that is an otaku right there. That is a Friday Night Lights otaku. So like it's in a similar space. So I think that's probably what I would recommend, and that's one of the things I'm currently reading that I'm really enjoying too.
Cool. The only thing I can think of is it's not a manga, unfortunately. It's an anime because it's mostly what I do.
I mean, that's the same space. You're good.
Right? And it might actually be a manga. I don't know. Bryce could clue me in. Shirobako is anime about making anime.
Yeah.
It's it's 4 or 5 women who are in the anime industry in different like positions. It's really great, and you get to see their like interests diverge. One's into drawing, one's into doing voice acting, producing. It's a cute story about making anime.
Yeah. And yeah, it was a manga first.
Sweet. Haha, I did it.
I mean, most things in Japan start out as manga, which is great because the authors get all this recognition.
Yeah.
And then it eventually transitions into anime. And then if it's even more successful, it turns into a live action drama or sometimes a movie. They're
Okay.
actually making a movie of Wotakoi.
Are they really?
Next year. Yeah.
Live action?
Yeah, like a 2-hour movie.
Fantastic.
Are any of those live action movies good though?
I mean, I don't know. Depends.
is there one? Because in my very limited interactions with the live action movies of manga, none of them are good.
I don't know. It depends. I'm going to watch this one, though, because it's going to have Yamazaki Kento in it, and I really like him.
All right, hang on. I'm Googling.
I don't know, man. The live action Haikyuu is pretty baller.
Oh, that was a stage play.
Oh, that's right. It was a stage play.
Stage play.
They do bullet time or volleyball time. It's great. They're slowing down.
Yeah.
In what?
Haikyuu is a manga / anime about volleyball.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's volleyball time.
Yeah, so they like the big like if you think of an anime doing really like dramatic volleyball plays, they slow down time and like hit the ball really fast. They do it on stage, Matt. They pull it off.
Yeah, they make a stage play out of it.
It's
Okay,
great.
is that a thing I can watch online?
I think it's on
Probably.
YouTube. I think we found it.
Okay, well, I'm Googling that now too. Volleyball manga stage play is where I will start, and I'm really hopeful that I will find that for the show notes.
But yeah, this has been fun. Thank you, Bryce, for suggesting this. I love
Yeah.
Wotakoi.
Yeah, this was a fun one to get into and to like experience more than the one episode of anime of too, because I enjoyed that episode, but I'm so bad at following up on like especially anime specifically.
It's on Amazon Prime, so it's pretty readily available. If anyone's interested, check it out.
Oh, actually, I did think of a live action show.
Oh,
of
yeah?
a manga that was I thought was pretty good. Was Erased on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
It was made by Netflix or produced by Netflix. Uh, the manga is pretty sad, and the show is also pretty sad. It's basically about a boy who can kind of sort of time travel. In the beginning, he can only do it like a few seconds.
He's writing a manga, isn't he, or something like that?
Yeah, so he wants to be a manga writer. However, his mom gets killed, and he gets kind of sort of framed for the murder.
Ooh.
And so he ends up having to rewind time to back when he was a kid. And when he's a kid, the town that he was living in, there's a serial killer that's been killing little
geez.
children. And so he kind of has to, I don't know, he groups up with his friends, Stranger Things style, and they like find out who the serial killer is. And then it goes back to the present day. And yeah, it's a good show. You should watch that
sounds like
show
a rough
or read
life,
the manga.
though.
It's pretty good though.
Great.
All right. I think that's going to do it for this month's discussion of Wotakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku. As always, if you want to get in touch with Pat or me, you can find us on Twitter as @thehypnotoad and @mattledge, respectively. You can also email us at waitingonthetrade@gmail.com and read more comics-related goodness at mattreadscomics.com, where we actually have some merch now in our store. We have a TeePublic store, which I'm pretty excited about, actually.
All the stickers can be yours.
Bryce, where can people find you online, assuming that you want to be found?
League of Legends.
What's your screen name so they know if they ran into you?
Duo Maxwell, DuoMaxwell. And yes, that is a character from
I was
Gundam
gonna
Wing.
say.
I knew that, actually, I think. Which Gundam is this again? Remind me.
Mobile Suit Gundam.
No, but which
So,
Gundam?
oh, the Death Scythe. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember whether it was Death Scythe or it was the rock one. Darn it. Anyways. All right. Well, thanks again, Bryce, for coming on to talk Wotakoi with us.
Spread the otaku love.
Spread it. We'll be back here next month to talk about whatever volume of Sandman Mike Drew decides he wants to talk about as we finally reunite the Battlestar Bros podcast crew.
It's happening.
This has all happened before.
And it'll happen again.
It'll all happen again.